Good morning. You're watching Nightline with me, Adrian Seet. The top stories. Government to raise 12th Malaysia planned spending by 15 billion ringgit. And regulation to limit purchase of one affordable house per citizen to be enforced. Thanks for joining us. The government has raised the expenditure ceiling for the 12th Malaysia Plan 12 MP by 15 billion ringgit, bringing its total allocation to 415 billion ringgit. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the increase was necessary to finance the people's priority areas, in addition to improving the quality of management and retargeting of subsidies to cover the basic needs of Malaysians.
RM12 akan dijajarkan semula dengan visi ekonomi madani yang menyasarkan pemerkasaan dan merancakkan ekonomi negara untuk tempoh 10 tahun. Kerajaan komited untuk membelanjakan sekurang-kurangnya 90 bilion ringgit setahun bagi tahun 2023 hingga 2025.
Anwar said this when tabling the 12th MP Midterm Review MTR in the Dewan Rakyat on Monday. He added that the government will review the policies, strategies and targets comprehensively, taking into account the development gap between the city, the countryside and the interior, as well as the rich-poor gap that still exists, the swelling debt, the limited fiscal space and the slow transition of the economic structure. He said the 12th MP initially allocated 400 billion ringgit to finance extension and new development projects for a period of 5 years. And for the first 2 years, the government has spent 34% of the amount. He pointed out that the government has targeted a jump in economic growth of at least 5% per year during the 12th MP by accelerating the transition to high-value industries to strengthen productivity and by embracing advanced technology as well as enhancing skilled talent. Datuk Sri Anwar also announced a total of 11 new transport and logistics projects to ensure the development of a sustainable and resilient national infrastructure. The Prime Minister said the projects involved the construction of the Pan-Borneo Highway Sabah Phase 1B, Pulau Pinang Light Rail Transit LRT project, and the expansion of the Pulau Pinang International Airport. Anwar stated that the projects also include the redevelopment of Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport Subang and the upgrade of the East-West Highway from Girik Perak to Jeli Kelantan. The government is also involved in upgrading the Senai Desaru Highway, widening the North-South Expressway from Yong Ping to North Senai in phases, construction of the Sarawak-Sabah Link Road 2, and upgrading the road from Tanah Rata to Kia Farm, Cameron Highlands.
Selain itu, pembangunan pelabuhan baru di Pulau Keri, Selangor dijangka dapat mengukuhkan pelabuhan Kelang sebagai hub pemindahan kapal serantau. Kerajaan juga akan menambah baik kerja-kerja penyelenggaraan infrastruktur pengangkutan bagi memanjangkan jangka hayat jalan raya, aset rel dan peralatan navigasi udara.
He also said the main expectation of strengthening the public transport network will be to provide better access and connectivity to ensure that more citizens will be able to enjoy the public transport services that are more efficient, reliable, affordable and safe. Now, the government will scrap any project that have long been approved but have yet to commence, including those that were given the green light under the 11th Malaysia Plan. Anwar said this move was aimed at making way for people-oriented projects that are more pressing.
Pelan bagi pemantauan pelaksanaan kebijakan KSP RM12 disediakan sebagai panduan bagi setiap kementerian dan agensi. Sebahagian daripada sasaran KSP RM12 dijadikan KPI kementerian.
In line with this, the Prime Minister asked all members of the government, including members of the administration and department heads, to jointly carry out their responsibilities in an honest and trustworthy manner to ensure that incidents of wrongdoing and audit reprimands reported in the Auditor General's report would not occur. He stressed that the unity government would implement all strategies and initiatives planned under the 12th MP MTR in an organised, systematic as well as responsible manner and would function as an efficient and dynamic government to fulfil the hopes of the people. Meanwhile, the government will soon ban the export of rare earth raw materials to curb the exploitation and the loss of resources, as well as to guarantee the maximum returns for the country. Anwar said a new national mineral policy will be drafted to drive a comprehensive development of the mineral industry based on the principles of sustainability and responsibility.
Kebijakan ini akan dijadikan panduan dalam melaksanakan aktiviti perlombongan dalam hutan simpan kekal, kawasan sensitif alam sekitar dan kawasan perlindungan. Pemetaan terperinci sumber unsur nadi bumi dan model perniagaan menyeluruh yang menggabungkan industri huluan, pertengahan dan hiliran akan dibangunkan bagi mengekalkan rantaian nilai nadir bumi di dalam negara.
Anwar also said that the rare earth industry will emerge as a new sustainable source of growth for the country based on sustainable and environmentally friendly non-radioactive rare earth elements that are crucial in manufacturing batteries, supermagnets and electronic devices. He also noted that the rare earth industry was expected to contribute 9.5 billion ringgit to the GDP by 2025 and create 7,000 new jobs. The 12 MP MTR tabled by the Prime Minister is seen to have a strong foundation on which new economic policies can be built upon. Economist Professor Jeffrey Williams told Nightline that the review of the plan was seen as a distinct, innovative and radical vision for the country's economic policy moving forward.
There are also some new areas, for example, a focus on exploiting rare earth resources in Malaysia. These are very important for green growth technologies, electric vehicles, electric batteries, and so on. And the policy here is very innovative because there is a ban on the export of these resources, which means that any international companies that want to use them will have to set up their facilities here in Malaysia. And that helps to keep the benefit of these resources locally, and it will help in terms of local jobs, and it helps in terms of local investment, and it will help in terms of local supply chain. We've also seen a pivot toward some of the main economy Madani priorities and the Madani framework more generally. So although there is a continuation of the theme of sustainability, there is also a very clear emphasis that sustainability also involves issues of social protection. And in addition to that, we are looking forward to seeing from this new framework an emphasis on targeted subsidies, which will no longer be focused on targeting prices, but will be specifically focused on targeting incomes using the new PADU database. Now, this is very important because what it means is that it will help to coordinate the overall strategy, not just of making life and the cost of living more affordable for people, but also raising people's incomes over time.
Meanwhile, another economist, Muhammad Nizam Abdul Rashid, believes that the additional allocation of 15 billion ringgit announced in the 12 MP MTR would have a direct impact on the construction sector. This will also help the government to narrow the budget gap to 3.5% of gross domestic product GDP by 2025.
The government has been trying to address some of the midterm issues, such as how to bring the budget cap to a much lower level, and this intent to ensure that the whatever assistance, such as subsidies, will be more targeted, will be more directed to those who are in need. So these are not easy to be implemented, but it is being mentioned in the documents, and perhaps we shall see more tractions when the government starts to implement the plans.
Nizam pointed out that the economy has been quite volatile for the past 2.5 years, as the GDP growth was expected to expand by 4.5% to 5.5%.
In 2021, we grew by 3.3%. In 2022, the economy went up to 8.7%, and in the first half this year, the economy was growing at a rate of 4.3%. And given the uncertainties in the global economy, it remains to be seen whether the economy will continue to grow at a healthy clip in the next two years. So therefore, I think the onus will be on the domestic demand, in particular the government spending. So in this particular review, we can see that the government has actually bumped up their development expenditure, and therefore we shall see the multiplier effect will be benefiting the economy and will be benefiting the key industries such as construction, manufacturing, and also the services sector.
Anwar on Monday boosted the 12th Malaysia Plan 12 MP by a significant injection of funds in a bid to propel the national economy to even greater heights. But the government is also being urged to put in place a comprehensive program to monitor its initiatives. FMT's Natasha Bast has the report.
Taking office as Prime Minister, Anwar has announced a slew of measures aimed at reviving the nation's economy. In July, Anwar, who is also the Finance Minister, unveiled his narrative for a Madani economy aimed at restoring Malaysia's position as an economic leader in the Southeast Asia region. Earlier this month, he launched the new Industrial Master Plan 2030 in a bid to transform Malaysia into a high-tech industrialized nation. Economist Parjoy Bardai of University Tun Abdul Razak welcomed the expenditure ceiling.
But understandably, the government challenge is to find ways to balance its financial. And the coming budget to 2024 should give us an idea of how the government will intend to further do this.
He also said there was a need for the government to comprehensively monitor all its initiatives.
We should have a department or a unit in the Prime Minister Department or in the Ministry of Finance that will continuously monitor the performance and measure it on a monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, annually, and for the whole period of the plan.
Anwar also announced 17 big and bold measures encompassing 71 key initiatives to stimulate the economy over the next decade. He said the measures were aimed at strengthening sustainability, promoting well-being, and achieving higher income levels. Natasha Bust, FMT for Nightline.
The regulation to limit the purchase of only one affordable house per eligible citizen will be enforced in an effort to ensure an adequate supply of affordable homes. According to the 12 MP MTR report released by the Economy Ministry on Monday, this is to enable more accurate cross-qualification screening of ownership information with relevant agencies. Now, the report said land inventory information that integrates all information on Waqaf land will also be established to identify suitable land for more affordable housing. Furthermore, the regulation related to the exit policy for public housing will be enforced by developing guidelines and procedures for overqualified tenants to move to appropriate housing options. The report also said that the 10-year-old moratorium period on the resale of houses will be expanded to include all public housing. In addition, the development of a National Housing Action Plan to identify real housing needs will facilitate the provision of suitable housing, and housing programs implemented by the government will be guided by the concept of shelter as a basic need and human right instead of ownership. The targeted subsidy program is expected to be fully implemented at the beginning of next year. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said the time frame was based on the scheduled launch of the main database system, PADU, this November, before it is open to the public for the verification of their socio-economic status in January next year.
Kaedah dan mekanismenya itu sama ada pindahan tunai, sama ada berdasarkan kad, sama ada di PAM, yang itu semua tu akan diputuskan dari semasa ke semasa, kerana keutamaan kita sekarang ini adalah untuk memastikan maklumat sosioekonomi setiap isi rumah itu lengkap.
Rafizi said this to the media after the tabling of the 12 MP MTR by Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim in the Dewan Rakyat on Monday. On May 15th this year, Anwar, who is also the finance minister, agreed to establish PADU to integrate the socio-economic information of every household in the country to streamline the implementation of targeted subsidies. He said the system would help the government to ensure that subsidy programs would be implemented in a more orderly manner to prevent any eligible household from being left out. After this breather, North Korea's Kim Jong-un reportedly en route to Russia. Stay tuned.
Kalau anda nak tahu,
On Monday, search villages reduced to rubble for any survivors from Morocco's deadliest earthquake in more than 6 decades, in a desperate race against time as the death toll rose to almost 2,500. It was reported that the death toll is now 2,497, with another 2,476 people injured. With much of the quake zone in hard-to-reach areas, the authorities have not issued any estimates for the number of people missing. Most of the destruction and deaths were in the Al Haouz province in the high Atlas Mountains, where homes folded in on themselves and steep and winding roads became clogged with rubble. In the meantime, search teams from Spain, Britain and Qatar were joining efforts to find people buried under the debris after the 6.8 magnitude quake struck late on Friday. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly began his journey to Vladivostok for a summit with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Now, according to South Korean media, the armed train that Kim uses for foreign visits appears to have departed Pyongyang. The meeting is expected to take place as early as Tuesday local time. The two leaders would likely focus on military cooperation, with the possibility of North Korea providing Moscow with weapons to support its war in Ukraine. Russia will likely ask North Korea for conventional arms, including artillery shells and rocket artillery ammunitions, in exchange for food and raw materials and continuing support at international forums like the United Nations. If the summit with Putin pushes through, it will be the North Korean leader's first international trip in more than 4 years and the first since the pandemic. A drone attack on Sunday at an open market south of Sudan's capital Khartoum has killed at least 43 people as the military and a powerful rival paramilitary group battle for control of the country. According to the Sudan Doctors Union, more than 55 others were wounded in the attack in Khartoum's main neighborhood, where paramilitary forces battling the military were heavily deployed. The casualties were taken to the Bashir University Hospital. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, blamed the military's air force for Sunday's attack, although it was not immediately possible to independently verify the claim. The military, meanwhile, said that it didn't target civilians, describing the RSF accusations as false and misleading. Sudan has been rocked by violence since mid-April, and indiscriminate shelling and airstrikes by both factions are not uncommon in the war that has made the Greater Khartoum area a battleground. Djokovic clinches a historic On to sports. Tennis. Novak Djokovic secured his 24th Grand Slam title and became the oldest US Open champion in the Open era after a grueling victory over Daniil Medvedev. Take a look. The 36-year-old Serbian, who is back up to world number one, beat third seed Medvedev 6-3, 7-6, 6-3 for a fourth Flushing Meadows crown. Djokovic won it after a tie-break to move 2-love up to finally break Medvedev's spirit, going on to gain a measure of revenge after the Russian denied him the calendar Grand Slam in the final here 2 years ago. The victory also moved him level with Margaret Court's record of major titles. On to football. Billy Sharp scored in the 82nd minute and the Los Angeles Galaxy rallied from a 2-goal deficit to earn a 2-2 draw with St. Louis City on Sunday night. St. Louis City were in front early when Samuel Adiniran took a pass from Jared Stroud in the 4th minute and scored his 7th goal of the season. Joao Klaus then made it 2-0 in the 28th minute. The Galaxy got on the scoreboard in the 53rd minute on a penalty kick goal by Ricky Puig before Sharp scored the equaliser. When we return, 3 arrested, shabu worth over 3 million ringgit seized. Stay with us. staying with us. Malaysia's private healthcare sector has been given a much-needed boost after the Health Ministry announced that foreign nurses will not need a post-basic qualification to work here. The exemption will help address a crippling shortage of nurses in the country, but an expert warns that a longer-term plan is needed. FMT's Danish Raja Reza has the details.
Malaysia can breathe a sigh of relief as the Health Ministry has announced that foreign nurses will be exempt from the requirement of having a post-basic qualification to work in Malaysia. The exemption, which would be effective from October 1st this year to September 30th, 2024, was granted to address an existing acute shortage of nurses in the private healthcare system. However, Malayan Nurses Union President Nur Hayati Abdul Rashid warns that longer-term measures need to be put in place.
I think to overcome the problem for the short term is good, but in the long term, they must have their own plan, you know. You must synchronize between your needs and the plan that in future, in 5 years' time, you know, how many nurses that you wanted to have. You know, all these trainings and all those things is part of their long-term plan. And mind you, I think this shortage is not only in our Malaysia; it's a global problem because the challenge to work in the health industry is not easy. Not everybody can become a nurse. Not everyone can become a doctor. You know, the challenge of the nature of work is really very challenging.
The shortage in recent years has been attributed to a combination of factors. These include an aging nursing workforce, a surge in demand for healthcare services, and challenges in attracting and retaining nursing talent who prefer to move overseas in search of better pay. For Dr. Kujit Singh, president of the Association of Private Hospitals Malaysia, there is no downside to the recruitment of foreign nurses.
And our nurses tend to go overseas because they are remunerated very high. But there are nurses from other parts of the world who are happy to come to Malaysia. And some of our nurses want to go overseas. We cannot match what is paid by Saudi, Singapore, and New Zealand. Because that amount, if we start paying them, our healthcare costs will become very, very high. So that reason, we do not see a downside of doing this because they're looking at critical care and the critical industry. So you need nurses, otherwise without nurses, you can't run a healthcare facility.
Kujit says the availability of foreign nurses will enhance the public and private healthcare partnership.
With this move, we are able to open up more beds and then we can even do more public-private partnership with the government.
Danish Raja Reza, FMT for Nightline.
Any organizer planning to hold a rally in Kuala Lumpur on September the 16th must obey the laws, including submitting an application for a permit beforehand. Deputy Inspector General of Police Datuk Sri Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said stern action will be taken according to the existing laws if they fail to adhere them.
Mereka perlu membuat permohonan 5 hari sebelum permohonan dan tidak ada bantahan daripada orang yang sekitar juga, ahli-ahli penjagaan ataupun kedai-kedai yang ada kat situ. Itu syarat tu dia orang kena penuhi. Sama ada kita setuju atau itu soal lain.
Ayub Khan said this at a press conference after attending the Royal Malaysia Police Air Wing's 44th anniversary in Ipoh, Perak on Monday. He further added that the organisers also need to get permission from the Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL and seek the approval from the owners of the premises regarding the location of the rally. He added that according to the Peaceful Assembly Act, Monday was the last day for them to submit their applications. The Sabah police have busted an international drug trafficking syndicate with the arrest of 3 local men, including 2 siblings, and the seizure of drugs valued at 3 million ringgit at the Kota Kinabalu International Airport, KKIA. Sabah Police Commissioner Dato' Jaute Dikun said the trio from Sarawak, aged between 27 to 38, were arrested on the roadside near the entrance to the KKIA's arrival hall at 12:40 a.m. on Thursday. Now, during inspections on their vehicle, police discovered several black parcels containing smaller packs of drugs, believed to be shabu weighing 50.25 kilograms. Authorities also seized various currencies totaling over 1,000 ringgit, as well as mobile phones and jewellery worth more than 15,000 ringgit. The syndicate was believed to have been active in the last few months, while the drug supply was obtained abroad and meant for distribution in a neighbouring country. All the suspects have been remanded for a week until Thursday to facilitate investigations under the Dangerous Drugs Act. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look as Jordanian racers drove self-designed homemade vehicles without engines and showed off their skills as part of the Red Bull Soapbox race in Amman. With that, I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for watching and have a great week ahead.